Hi there, everyone, and welcome to this Real Talk. Um, so grateful to be here and to be joined by Tara Ross, who is going to not only share her own caregiving experience with us, but also share a little bit about what so many of us as caregivers do, which is then quote unquote share the wealth, right? We want to share what we've learned. We want to share the resources that we've accumulated along the way, the tips, the tricks, the whole shebang. And so I am so glad to have Tara here. Hi, Tara. How are you?
Hi, Nicole. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I guess to kick us off, tell us a little bit about your caregiving experience. And what kind of set you on the journey of being a caregiver?
So I was married to a submariner. So he was in the Navy, and I like to think that my caregiver journey started at that point when I became, a Navy wife. But really, I don't think I actually recognized it till he got hurt, and he was in a holding place called Limdu, and that's where they hold anybody in the Navy that may be hurt or injured, and it's just kind of like a place to do physical therapy, things like that, and then find out, whether you're coming back to serve or if you're going to get medically discharged. So at that point was when I kind of realized, okay, this is something big. So that's where my caregiver journey started.
Okay, so I guess my follow-up question would be, is that kind of when you identified yourself as a caregiver and you're like, okay, I am now a spouse, but I'm also supporting my spouse in maybe a slightly different way.
I don't think I gave myself the title actually until I was part of the PCAFC program that the veteran program has. It allows caregivers to get a stipend. And then at that point, I kind of took it on as, okay, this is my job, this is my title. I'm going to present myself this way in, you know, appointments and in doctor's visits. And that's when I kind of took that title on. But like I said, I think, most spouses in the military service are already caregivers, whether they take that title on or not. I mean, you're already doing so much to, support those that are serving, that's already kind of a given, even though we might not want to take that title on right away.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. Definitely something that I think is very, I think, timely. Yesterday was Memorial Day. We
Hmm.
obviously think a lot about, our loved ones who have served.
Hmm.
Um, what I guess one of the questions that um may come up is what are some of the unique aspects or challenges of caring for someone that's in the military or a veteran from your experience and how you kind of work in that space.
One of the, I think, unique experiences, although I've not had too many experiences yet outside of the VA, I've taken care of like in-laws, my parents and things like that. But the amount of support and community that's within the VA and within the military as you're getting out, there's a lot. It could be very overwhelming. And depending on the programs and services, there may not be enough support to help everybody that is trying to get those services. So that could be challenging. And depending on where you live, it might not be available. But in general, there is a lot of services depending on the disability itself, as well as for caregivers. It's just a matter of having the knowledge or to find that to then ask for it because unfortunately, I'm not going to tell you all the services. They're just too much, right? I mean, it's based off of branch, it's based off of like disability. There's so much that's like the caregiver and the veteran really have to advocate and ask questions and maybe not know exactly how to ask them. But there's a lot. And because of that, I appreciate that. But weeding through it, I think, would be the most difficult part.
Gotcha. I think that makes a lot of sense. You're working kind of within different systems. and being able to understand where to go for support, how to ask for it, what how do you know what to ask for? I think is always, I mean, even if you're not a military or veteran caregiver, I think that's always, as a new caregiver, a struggle. But when you're working within those very specific systems, I can see that being an additional challenge. Um, I guess a question that I have for you, and then I want to talk a little bit about caregiver doula as
Mhm.
well. But being a military or veteran caregiver, how important and easy was it to feel part of a caregiving community within that space? Once you kind of go through the process of raising your hand and saying, I'm a caregiver, were you able to easily find others that were raising their hand and saying, yeah, me too? Come over here and let's talk and let's see how we can support each other.
For me, since we lived in San Diego, there's such a big military Navy community. It was very easy. When he was stationed to a location with a submarine, I was, automatically given an ombudsman who is, a woman that is, that helps with me understanding what's going on the sub, what the schedule is like, things like that. And when he got hurt, I was able to reach out to those women, to that community, and ask them, what should I do next? Even in the limdo process where we weren't sure if he was going to, stay or not, there is a many classes and things that you can take to kind of figure out what's going to happen and where we're going to go. So, and then also because we were in San Diego, there's a lot of, military programs outside, a lot of community organization things. There's stuff going on in the news. That was actually how I found out about the PCAFC program. They were doing a day for caregivers where they were giving out massages. So to know that, you could get services like that, opened my eyes to like, oh, I shine these things and therefore, get help and assistance. So being near a bunch of military was very helpful in that sense. And then of course, with the internet and Facebook and all of these things, it's easier. Again, it's just a matter of finding the time to do the research, figure out which one works best for you in that community, I think is super helpful.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, location is always part of the conversation. And, obviously, when you are in an area where there's plenty of those connections that you can make, as well as different resources you can easily tap into, that does make, I think, the journey a little bit easier. So I really appreciate you, I think, highlighting that. I want to switch gears and talk about your work as a caregiver doula, as we may close up here, because I think this is phenomenal. Um, what
Thank you.
about your caregiving experience kind of led that charge for you?
Well, the word doula is somebody who helps with, the physical, emotional, informational, sometimes even spiritual support. And, people may know doulas as, birth doulas or even death doulas. And I think it's really important that we, as a community, recognize that the caregiver journey needs support, needs all of those things, physical, emotional, informational support, and even spiritual support. And I feel like doula is a perfect word for understanding that, a lot of us will go through the caregiver experience and that there is support for you to go through this journey because there is life also after this journey. So that's kind of my goal.
So that makes perfect sense. What was the moment where you're like, you know what? This is what I've got to do. This is where I'm feeling kind of led to kind of share my experiences and really be that support in those ways. What was there like a moment for you, or was it just something that your journey just kind of naturally led to that place?
I think it's a little bit of both. Having gone through the VA process, trying to get service-connected disability, asking for assistance, I learned, t tricks and tips along the way of how to navigate through getting approval, getting assistance, going through CMP exams, all of those things. And there's a lot of, negative things that happen, a lot of pitfalls. And at a certain point, I had really hit the peak of burnout and getting out of that. Again, a lot of tips and tricks. And so just kind of going through that journey, I realized that we don't have to go through all of that. I know that there are better ways to get through that. And if there's a way that I could help and assist and get, caregivers financial assistance, get through the PCAFC program, help veterans, get service-connected disability so we can get more assistance, that is the goal.
No, I love that because again, I think that really again speaks to meeting lots of different needs that caregivers have and really looking at it as that journey of, at different times you're going to need those different supports. Caregiving isn't just uh, a solid road, point A to point B. It's
Mhm.
obviously much more complexity. So I really appreciate that. Tell us a little bit about how you connect with caregivers, how you support caregivers if they reach out to you. What's that process like? If someone is listening to this and says, "This is me, this is what I need," what can they do?
I I would like to acknowledge that as much as we can all agree that there are a lot of things in common with caregiving, there's also a lot of unique situations. So when I get in contact with caregivers, I really find it important to do one-on-one conversations, having a talk about, who are you caring for? How are you related to this veteran? What kind of work are you doing? What kind of assistance do you need? My whole way of resolving the issue is also through data and monitoring. So I create templates and I have some basic ones that you could purchase, but I really love doing the custom work where I actually get to see, you know, and put in specifically what do you need to monitor so that you can advocate better with your, specialist, with PT, with whomever. And that type of data really helps to strengthen the needs that you need for, again, PCAFC program to show the ADLs, the assisted daily living that you're providing, and well as, creating information or more data for service-connected disability. A lot of times in the process, you will get denied, and it's really important to understand why you got denied. And then when you make an appeal, present that. Did they make a mistake? Did you make a mistake? Is it in the medical records? How do we get it back in the medical records or show that information? Depending again on the diagnosis, things can fluctuate. And so to have that kind of information and look at not only caregiving as, something that you love to do to care for your loved one, but also as a job with, you know, understanding the language and paperwork really helps to, get your needs met. So that's kind of what I base it off of.
I love that because you're exactly right. Everyone's journey is different. Everyone's spot where they are in that caregiving journey is different. And so to be able to, you know, to use the term that we use a lot, meet caregivers where they are, which is have that
Absolutely.
conversation with them and say, what do you
Mhm.
need? Where are you at right now? And how can I help you feel supported in that moment? And then when you get to that next moment, we'll figure out what that next piece looks like. Um,
Mhm.
I really, really love that. One of the things that we'll make sure to do is put the link to the website here in the comments so that folks, if you want to learn a little bit more, you can certainly go there, learn more about the supports and resources there. I think, like you said, Tara, there's some templates that they may have access to if that's something that they're looking for. But um, Tara, I really appreciate you taking the time to share a little bit about yourself and the amazing work that you're doing to support caregivers. It's always amazing to have these stories where, a caregiver is not only bringing their experience to the table, but also saying, what can I do now to kind of pay it forward for all the other caregivers that may be coming along this path?
Well, thank you. And thank you so much for your service. I know that you're a caregiver. Thank you for anybody who's listening. Thank you guys so much for your service. I know we say it to military, but I always love to recognize the people and the spouses behind those veterans because the work that you guys do are also amazing. So thank you guys.
I appreciate it. Um, yes, please, folks, sound off in the comments. If you're a military or veteran caregiver, what's your experience been like? What are some of those resources that you've plugged into? Um, we're always looking at how we can, especially help caregivers navigate some of these complex systems that Kara has highlighted. So, um, Kara, thank you so much for being part of this conversation. I do hope that you'll come back and talk again, share a little bit more about your experience, and we can really dig into, how we can support those caregivers along those specific moments.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the group. Right. I think we have ended the live. Thank you so much, Sarah. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And yeah, like honestly, thank you for your service. I know you do a lot for your mom and things. So
No, I appreciate this so much, and we're doing so much work. I think to really reach out to military and veteran caregivers, and
yeah.
when we're able to highlight narratives like yours and the support that you are also providing, I think is just what we need to do. So thank you so much. I'll definitely be reaching out, letting you know where to get the recording,
Awesome.
and have any questions, let me know.
Okay, well, thank you. Have a good day. Talk
You
to you
too. Bye,
later.
Sarah.
Bye. Have a good day.